I'm quite disappointed with that, but beyond our control.
Yeah. I have 2 front doors and there was a note on one, and even if he wouldn't have seen the note, he would have had to leave a sign when and where to pick up the package, right? But nothing, they didn't come by, neither on Friday nor yesterday, nor this morning.
Okay, Catherine, looks like we're good to start.
Okay, thanks, Kathy. Good morning. First of all, for those that don't know me, I'm Catherine Schultz, and I'm the chair of the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee for Grey County, and replacing Dwight, which there are big shoes to fill, Dwight, just so you know.
Doing a good job, Cassie.
Thank you. Anyway, we'll call the meeting to order, Kathy. And yes, we had a few little technical difficulties getting started, but that's the world we're living in today, I think, especially with COVID. So this is actually my first meeting, well, second meeting chairing. The first was just before COVID, and now this is my second meeting chairing. So welcome, everyone. It's good to see faces and put faces to the names, especially on the agenda. So with just a little reminder to share your screen at the bottom. You'll see at the bottom, if you're not sharing your screen, you can share your screen. And then if you speak, then you can unshare if you choose to do that. Is that correct, Kathy? Am I instructing that properly?
So that'll be for the presenters. Everybody else can just unmute and speak whenever they want to speak. I think we'll do this pretty casually today.
Yeah, okay, great. So the first item on the agenda is any declaration of pecuniary interest. So does anyone have any pecuniary interest to declare? No? Andrew?
No.
Oh, Claudia?
I'm not even sure what the word means. I'm really sorry about that.
Okay, it really is if there's a conflict, if you have a conflict of interest.
No, I don't.
Okay, thanks, Claudia. Okay, and our next item on the agenda is our Grey Transit Route Bus Stop consultation. And we have Stephanie Stewart with us from Grey County Manager of Community Transportation. Welcome, Stephanie, and we'll let you take it away.
Perfect. Good morning, Catherine. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet with you again, and thank you. It's been a few weeks or months probably since we met.
Yes.
And the last time we met, we had a really good conversation, and I appreciated everybody's honesty. So I'm here today again because, as some of you may have heard, we are ready to move forward with our buses. We have a new plan in place. We kind of had to rejig our plan because of COVID. It had a significant impact on us. So we just redid everything. We came up with a budget-friendly, appropriate way to start to ensure that we had something on the road for residents so that everybody could get moving. We know we have lots of work to do, and there's lots of opportunity to improve the system and have more runs per day and days per week. And this is definitely just the beginning, and we will continue to build. But what I wanted to chat with you guys today about was just our signage. So we have some signage going up in the very near future to indicate that this is our bus stop, so where to stand, so people know that this is where the bus will be picking them up. And I also have some images that I can share with you of kind of where the bus stop signs will be located at some sample locations. So I will just share my screen. Okay, can everybody see it okay?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So Andrew, I'm just showing an image here of our bus stop signs. It's a sample of what Tillsonburg actually did. So we will be working with Tillsonburg and some other Southwest community transit organizations. So eventually we will have some of this signage and labeling that says Southwest Community Transit on our bus stop signs. But for now, ours will just say basic information, which I'll show you in just one moment. But this is kind of just an idea of what I use to mock our signs up off of. This is just a sample. So this is what our signs will actually look like. So it just has a simple bus stop logo at the top. It's a white bus, Andrew, with a blue background. And then we have a little green line underneath the bus symbol, followed by it says route. And then it says the days of the week that the bus will be running, which I think is very important. And we're going to have that correspond with all the different routes that we have, because not every bus runs Monday to Friday or every day of the week. So we're going to have that indicated so people know when they're at the stop if the bus is actually running that day. And then we indicate which route number it is. So we will have multiple routes. So that way, again, it corresponds. If you now look up the schedule online or on your phone, you'll know that you're at the right stop. And then it's the logo at the bottom, which just says GTR, which is the great way to drive. So down here, you can see an image of what it would look like. This is definitely not Grey County, the background in the image. It looks like Toronto to me, but this is what they mocked up for me. So this is what it would look like on a pole. And then this is kind of blurry, so I do apologize, but this is kind of the example. So there'll be a sign, like for example, the Owen Sound Transit Terminal, or similar here, we already have an Owen Sound, a bus stop by the Walmart. We're going to attach our signage to that stop where the Owen Sound Transit bus already stops, and we'll stop there as well. This is potentially the Shallow Lake Arena. We have to still confirm exactly where we can put the sign in the arena parking lot, but this is an example. And then follow here is the Orangeville bus stop location. So what you can see here is the sign will go above the Go bus stop sign, because Orangeville Transit doesn't actually have a sign to say that their bus stop's there. So we're going to use the same pole as the Go Transit sign. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the signage, or want me to elaborate more so I can explain better what's in front of you?
How easy is it to get there onto the bus for a person in a wheelchair, for example? Is
That's
that all
really
set up? So
no, unfortunately, at this time, it's not an accessible service if you are in a wheelchair. We will have to work with individuals who require an accessible service to help them with services that already exist, or just work with them to continue to enhance our service. We do know that we need to work on having an accessible side to our service, and we are going to get there. At this time, if an individual is able to exit their mobility device and take the 1 or 2 steps onto the bus, we can store their mobility device in the back of the vehicle. But at this time, there's no lift to get people actually on the vehicle, and there's no space for a full-size wheelchair to be parked and secured inside the bus. So that's definitely something that we know we need to work on and improve upon. But as I said, this is just our start, and we'll continue to enhance it. And your feedback is really important. So to hear what we're missing is what I want to know.
okay, so it's one step at a time, basically. First you get the bus rolling, and then you keep going on improving the service for everybody, right?
You got it. Exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Stephanie, the plan is to eventually have an accessible bus. Is that not correct? Okay.
Yeah, that is my hope to get there one day. It all depends on the usership and really what the residents of Grey County want. If there's really a demand and an interest, then we'll keep pushing it, and we'll keep, I'll keep advocating that this is something that our residents want. So yes, the more I hear it, the more I will speak on everyone's behalf to make sure that we.
Excellent.
Now, this might be a strange question, but is there a possibility to have like a double schedule for the bus, that let's say every 3rd bus would be a wheelchair accessible bus, so people with disabilities could at least go on that route, let's say a 1/3 of the time, but they could actually use that bus? Or is that a stupid idea?
No, that's definitely not a stupid idea. I think that's a great idea. And that is actually one of the things that we've looked at is I have asked our provider to give me some pricing as to what an accessible vehicle would cost. And actually, Claudia, we were on the same page, because my idea was to run that accessible vehicle behind the other bus. If the so that it would be running on the same schedule, but just two different vehicles. And then if you wanted to, or whoever required an accessible ride wanted to also have like a friend or a family member travel with them, then they would all just get in that vehicle together and everybody could travel together. Because that's obviously what we want, is everybody to travel with their friends and family. So, yeah.
I just want to add in there though that it's not a specialized transit service that we're offering. It is conventional transit, but there are definitely accessibility requirements that we need to consider.
I would think so, because if it's a service that's supposed to be there for everybody, that would include people with accessibility problems, right?
Right, but and Stephanie also has a plan. Steph, can you explain a little bit about how people book their rides, and that might add to this?
Sure. So when someone goes to book their ride, the plan right now, because of COVID, we've actually implemented this, which I think will be really helpful and add some extra security and comfort for our riders, is we are asking that everybody pre-books their ride. So that way we have their information. So if anything were to ever happen, we are able to contact them and say, oh, by the way, somebody on your bus got sick today, and we're able to contact everyone and let everyone know, because we know contact tracing is a really important thing right now. So it's great that we are encouraging everyone to book their ride. So you'll need to pre-book your ride similar to via rail or buying a ticket like on a plane. You're buying your ticket on the bus. So what will happen is you'll go online, or you can call in, whichever option is better for you, and you can log on and you can register and book your seat on the bus for that day. Now, if you require an accessible ride, what you can do is you'll select that option, and then you are going to be prompted, and we will call you. So driver's seat is the contractor that we're working with, and they will call you just to understand exactly what your needs are, to see if we can accommodate them with the existing buses that we have, or if we need to work with one of our existing partners, such as Saugeen Mobility or Home and Community Support Services, or we have Meaford Moves, and we have some other services in Grey County that already exist. So we'll use those partners that we have to access those rides. And if that's not an option, then we will definitely make sure that everybody gets to where they need to go. So we are going to have those one-on-one conversations with individuals who require an accessible ride, just so we get a good understanding of everybody's needs, and that we can continue to build the system to everyone's needs.
Okay, any other questions for Stephanie? No?
I'm good.
Okay, thanks, Claudia. How about you, Andrew? Any questions?
No, right now, not I can think of.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. All right, Stephanie, thank you so much for the presentation. Very informative. And thank you for bringing us up to date. Greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And if you guys think of other things, feel free to pass the conversations on through Kathy. If there's anything that I've missed, or once the system's up and running and there's like some big thing that like, oh my gosh, Steph, how did you miss this? I'm very much in the weeds and in the project right now, so that's a good chance that I could miss something. So if I do, please feel free to share that with Kathy. The goal is just to continue to improve the system, and we want to make it great for everyone.
That's great. Thank you, Stephanie.
Perfect. Thank you.
So we'll move on to site plan reviews. This is the Kilsyth Meadows subdivision with Jennifer Burnett from Georgian Bluffs. Jennifer is a planner at Georgian Bluffs. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you. Okay, did you want me just to go with my little park? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, so just a little bit of background. Kilsyth has recently had approved a 33 lot subdivision. So Kilsyth is Derby, and it's located pretty much at the corners of Gray Road 5 and Concession 7. So the proposed playground, I'm just going to share my screen here. Sorry, I haven't done this before, so it might take me and share. Okay. So can everyone, is it visible here, the air photo? So what I have on the screen is an air photo, and it is showing the property that where the new subdivision is going to go in. And you on the air photo, it's showing Fleming Drive through a large undeveloped field. And that's on either side of Fleming Drive is where the new homes will be built. On the, I guess the east side, more towards concession 7, is a red circle. And that red circle is to indicate where the proposed parkette or the park is going to be located. Touching that red circle, moving south, is a yellow line. And that is a existing / proposed walkway that will connect the Derby Center, Community Center property to the new neighborhood park. So the Derby, on that air photo, the Derby Community Center is the long building with the gray roof that is accessed off of concession 7. Let me see. I'm going to go to another drawing. So that's the general location of that. That is the location of where the little park will be. And the next image I have is a site plan that I believe was forwarded to everyone and included in the agenda. And on the screen, I have the just to better show the parcel, the area where the park is. I have it outlined in red. And
Jen, we're still seeing your initial drawing there.
Oh, are you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you. How do I have to reshare my screen?
Unless you go to file and bring your document up through there.
You have
I think you're on the right track there with your minimize button up at the top. So the screen there that you're showing, that's the screen we see. If your other piece is
Okay.
on another.
So my screen sharing is paused. What if I stop the share?
Okay.
Jennifer, it's also possible to just select a window to share rather than your whole screen, which is often what people do. So you don't share something that you don't want to. But if you've just selected that window, then yeah, you have to pause it and then share it again with the correct image. It'd be an option when you hit share to just share your whole monitor, and then anything you have up on your screen will be visible to us.
Sorry, I don't see those buttons. Did that work?
Yep, there it is.
Okay.
It's up.
Sorry. So this is the conceptual playground arrangement that was submitted by the developer. And what I've done is I have outlined on the on this image in red the playground. And within that, because the lines were so faint, I went over it again in black. That is the area that's going to be prepared for the playground. And the area I have highlighted in orange is the, I can give you the measurements on those, it's about a 1,300 square foot area where they're proposing to put some outdoor toys for the kids, to play. Right now, this is conceptual. We definitely would appreciate feedback on ideas for a community park. This is for the neighborhood. We do know that in Kilsyth, they did knock down the Derby school, and they removed playground equipment out of there. So right now, this new park is something that is going to benefit not just the residents of the Kilsyth Meadow subdivision, but it is going to benefit the surrounding neighbors as well. So that's that area that has been designed for playground equipment. That's about 1,300 square feet. And the area that the developer is going to prepare for us is about 4,300 square feet. And then the remainder of that parcel will be grassed. I'm just looking at my notes here. So right now, on this image, I also highlighted the path from the Derby Community Center in yellow. We're not proceeding with that path right now because we need to meet accessibility standards. The path from the community center right now is too steep. So when this park is developed, that connection won't be established, but I really would appreciate input on, on potential designs so that we can do some phased development to create this neighborhood park. And that's pretty much the introduction I have with our park. And I just want to thank you for having us from Georgian Bluffs, because we are really excited about this. It is the first park that we've been able to design in the 10 years I've been here. So I always enjoy having participation in collaboration on a project like this, just to make it better for the whole community. And I can answer any questions if anyone has any.
May I? This is Claudia.
Yes, absolutely, Claudia.
So you're saying there's a subdivision that's going to be built and it will have a path to that park and playground area, but the path would be too steep. Did I understand that right?
So the park will be accessible through the street. So it's going to be called Fleming Drive. And so people can access it directly from Fleming Drive. It's just right now, the Derby Community Center is south of the park, immediately south behind, and it's up at a higher elevation. So there's a hill coming from the community center down to this new park. And through this subdivision process, we're not able to make the path accessible, but that is part of a future park plan that we have. Right now, we just want to get the park established through this subdivision development process.
So for the future development, they should basically then keep in mind that it should be made accessible from the community center too. Is that the idea?
Yes, it is.
Can they build like a serpentine path or a zigzag path to avoid it being too steep? Or is that I don't know how much space there is, right?
Yeah. I'm sorry, what kind of path was it?
Serpentine, like going like a snake back and forth, like they would go on a very steep mountain. Like sort of zigzag.
Okay. Yeah, no, we will be looking at different options to see how it can be built so that it's safe for people to access and it's accessible.
Catherine?
Yes, Dwight. Yes, absolutely.
Thanks, Jen. I've met you before. Might I suggest, Catherine, that this Kilsyth subdivision is basically starting the process to start developing it. Hopefully, it's going to be have a good start before the snow flies.
Okay.
Might I suggest that, as Jen has indicated, the area where this proposed little park is going to go will be developed as the subdivision goes along. Might I suggest that the committee meet on site a little bit later on to actually look at this, where this path would go from the arena down, to give a real good feel and a better idea of what would be the best accessible way of doing it. And it'd be nice, I think, if the committee met there right on site. Now, it probably won't be until, again, early next year, I would guess.
Yes.
It won't happen before the fall, but just so we can make a note that we can meet on site when it's getting to that point, and then all work together and give the township plenty of great ideas of how to set it up.
That's an excellent idea, Dwight. And I was actually thinking that myself because it's hard to visualize it from a site plan. And, you know, obviously the other question I had for Jennifer will be, are you looking for input from the committee as well on playground equipment, accessible playground equipment? Okay, you are. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, Kathy.
Okay, so I would also like to hear from Andrew about things that he would be looking at in a community open space. And then I also want to mention that in the reference documents in this package, there is a Rick Hansen guide to creating accessible playgrounds and play spaces. So that might be an interesting resource as well.
It is an excellent resource. I would highly recommend it.
Now, is the community center itself fully accessible?
Mm.
Oh, that's a whole other discussion. Let's just stick with this little open space at the moment.
Andrew, did you have any comments or any questions?
Well, I think that I'm thinking for like I myself am used to steep things like all like I can do stairs, blah blah. But for somebody with a wheelchair, if you get going fast down that steep hill, you would never stop it fast enough.
Yeah, I think it'll be a challenge for sure. And I think once we have an opportunity to go there and view it and feel it, you know, just to see how steep it is. Have you, Andrew, along with a number of us, sort of climb that just to get a feel for the elevation?
Yeah.
It will give us a better idea as to maybe what our recommendation from the committee will be.
And just one other thing on that, that's a second entrance into this space. The first entrance would be off the Fleming Drive Road or Street or whatever it's called. So what I'm interested in hearing is if you're in an open play public space with what kinds of things make it better for you?
Be honest with you, I never thought about this because I kind of passed the playground stage in a sense, right? Because I don't not young enough to play them anymore, and like I'm trying to remember, like I know with and even then it's been so long since I played on and I'm trying to picture what a playground would be like for someone who's blind.
Mhm.
and everyone's one of them's kind of different in a sense because not everyone's the same shape or whatever.
Yes, Jennifer.
I just wanted to say too that this is intended to be a space for the community. So it's not just specifically for children. There will be the intent is to have some play structures for them, but you know, we were also thinking about benches so that neighbors could come and sit. It just we're looking to design a setup so that parquet or park can meet the needs of a lot of the community. So I think I mentioned that the play area, the playground is about 1,300 square feet, but the actual site is about 4,300 square feet. So there's definitely room for people to get together and to, you know, to enjoy the park.
Yeah.
So if there's any
Well,
ideas.
I have a question here. I don't know if there is any let's say, swing set where a whole wheelchair could be driven onto the swing basically, or something like that. Like some people with disabilities, when they're still kids, they might have the same weight than me as an adult. I'm 95 pounds. So is there a way to design a playground that could be used by adults too, like a swing set for a blind person, for an adult blind person, or for a person in a wheelchair, so that every toy that's there also has an accessible option that can carry more weight than, let's say, a 10-year-old? Or is that a harebrained idea? I don't know if there's any equipment like that even available on the market.
Yeah, I think that there's some, in Rick Hansen's report or the document, there are some options there. And I think there's a lot there. I mean, doing some research, I'm sure that there is equipment out there for adults. I think for a person with a visual disability, vision disability, probably the equipment would need to be somewhat tactile for the individual to use. So those are all kind of things to keep in mind. And I think the Rick Hansen document taps into that. I read through it. I hadn't read it for a while, so I did read it over again, and it's a great document as a guideline for sure. But even researching some of the equipment, and certainly that's not something I'd be more than happy to do that and provide some input on that as well.
Okay.
And when it's just a general swing,
Yeah.
you just, when it comes to a general swing, you just have to, whoever puts the swings in has to put the swing, set the swing height for an adult. That'd be easy enough to do.
Yeah. Yeah, good point, Andrew. Yes, Jennifer.
I do know that there are different options for swings. Southampton, I think it's their Rotary Park. They have an accessible swing there, and it's used by everyone. It's actually quite a fun swing. So there's lots of options out there to make the swings accessible, as well as the playground equipment.
But you are right. It's a good piece of land, 4,300 square feet, that has been designated parkland as part of the development. So yeah, it's a lot of space for even future planning.
Yes.
Right, yes.
Kathy, I just want to point out to everybody that this is a great venture that the township wants to do with this particular park. It's not going to happen overnight. It's something we want to plan for the future, and as the future goes on, we'll keep adding things to it to keep improving it. That's the whole gist, is not thinking that we're going to make this all at once, because we aren't. It's just a future planning, and we're looking for put us in the right direction so we can plan towards that. Just want to make that clear.
Yeah, that's a good point too, Dwight. And I, Jennifer, are you, the other question I would have, are you looking at some funding going forward, like the Enabling Accessibility Fund through the federal government, or, just to help offset some of the cost of the equipment?
So I've been working with the manager of recreation, so he's been looking at different options for playground equipment and funding. I do believe we have some money in the budget for structures, playground structures, but we haven't actually looked at funding opportunities at this point, just because everything is so conceptual right now. We wanted to figure out what the best use of the space was for the community.
Yeah, totally understandable.
So I have to interject here, just because I'm mindful that Claudia is leaving at 11:30. We have 13 minutes before we lose quorum.
Okay.
So,
So do you want to jump ahead to, can we jump ahead to item number 8, Kathy, or?
We could do that, and then I'll just try to be brief.
Okay, so thank you, Jennifer. Greatly appreciate your presentation, and certainly the committee will, give some thought to this. And I think Dwight's idea of us being able to go and physically see the site would help all of us better understand exactly what it's going to look like, and be able to give you some input into it. So thank you for your time.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to everyone for participating in our little park design. Thank you.
You're welcome, Jennifer. Okay, so we're going to just jump ahead for the sake of we need to have a motion on item number 8. And I know that Claudia, you're having to leave in a few minutes. So if we can do that item, and then we can move back to the agenda. So item number 8 is the report CCR-JAAC-11-20, fulfilling municipal accessibility requirements. Did everybody have a chance to look it over?
I think maybe, Dwight, are you going to move that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Dwight. And do I have a seconder? Andrew?
Yes, I'll second it.
Thank you. All right. And everybody in favor then?
Oh, no,
Yes.
I just have to talk about it first.
Okay, sorry, Kathy.
That's okay. So I put this report together because there's a lot of information about accessibility out there on the internet, and there's a lot of legislation that various people have to comply. Independent business operators, public entities, blah, blah, blah. So it's really a challenge to figure out what are our needs as municipalities? What are we responsible for actually doing? So that's what this report lays out. And my original report was 11 pages long because along with what we need to do, I did another report that said what we did do. So it became too much detail, but I have that, and I'm going to actually send it out to our local municipal participants for your information, in the hopes that it might help you to align your where you need to be with where you are, and hopefully everybody's good with everything. So that's what this report is, and hopefully it's a helpful little tool.
Yeah, it's excellent. Thanks, Kathy, for putting that together. Any questions, anyone? Okay, all in favor of moving the motion or passing the motion? Andrew?
Yes.
Claudia?
Yes,
Thank
yes.
you. Motion carried. Okay, so we'll move. Claudia, do you have to leave now or just in a few minutes?
What time is it exactly?
It is 11:20.
I have 10 more minutes.
Okay, so you can hang in there for a few more minutes with us. Okay, so we'll jump back to item number 5, accessible facilities website map update. And Sean Roberts, Grey County GIS specialist. Is Sean? Oh yeah, there's Sean. Okay, so Sean, would you like to join us and provide us with your presentation?
Sure. Can everyone hear me all right?
Yep.
Mr. Sure.
Yes.
Okay, so I want to start off by thanking everyone for joining. I am getting warnings of very unstable internet, so if I do cut out, Kathy has graciously accepted the role to take over for me. So I apologize in advance if I kind of stop halfway through my presentation. Rural internet is not the best.
Okay, thank you.
So my role, so what I have been working on with Kathy is a map of all of the accessible locations in Grey County. So put those all up on a website, on a map, so everyone can see them, everyone can click on them and get more information on what is accessible in each building. So an example would be if someone clicked on a map and wanted to know what accessible facilities were within the Grey County Administration building, they'd be able to click on that building and see all of the features that it has to make sure it meets all of their requirements. So we're at the pretty early stage of this right now. And what we're doing is we're collecting all of the data. So right now on my screen that I'm sharing, you can see a form called accessibility location or accessible locations in Grey County. So Kathy has sent this, this form out to all of our municipal partners with the idea that they'll fill it out with all of the information of their accessible facilities. Then next up, once I go through this form, I will show you kind of the intended use of that data. So the form itself is really simple. The first field is just the facility name and then kind of an address for the next field. Facility type is a drop-down menu that you can select recreation facility, cultural facility, community facility, or accessible transit. Then the next one is services, and there's a whole list of different types of services that could be offered at that facility. For
So
example,
Sean,
Yep.
hi, sorry. I just want to, can we just go right to the map to just show them what it's going to be? Because I think the, just in the sake of time, sorry to cut you short.
Yep, no, that's perfectly okay. So this is a demo, as you can see, demo of what the application will look like. So it being a map, it does inherently have accessible concerns, and we're going to make sure this map meets all of Grey County's accessibility needs in terms of coloring and all that kind of stuff. But when data is entered in on the map, it pops up on here. So these are two facilities that were already entered through that form. And there's different kind of categories. So they could say, okay, here's the accessible transit, here's the recreational facilities. Obviously, once more data is added in, there'll be a lot more data on the map, and then they can click on the facility. And this is where all that information would show up that was filled out in the form. So again, it's at its very early stages right now. We're still trying to collect all the data from the municipal partners, but the idea just being, here is one source that you can go to get all of the data of what is accessible in Grey County and what facilities does it offer. Just for the sake of time, I'll kind of cut my little presentation short here. And I don't know if Kathy, you want to jump in and say anything, or if anyone has any questions or concerns, I'd be happy to listen to them.
I have an idea. This is Claudia.
Sure.
When you make the map, you probably will have to include a legend, right? Which one is a park and what's a lake and whatever, all that stuff. If you want to show to people on a map which facility is accessible for what, you could maybe use the wheelchair accessibility sign and then color code it. So people can see, okay, there's a ramp that is useful for this, so that one is accessible for that, or this one has a totally accessible washroom or something like that. Maybe that would help to color code it.
Certainly. The idea is more along the lines of one facility can have multiple things in it. So that might be, we're definitely gonna try and make this very accessible to everyone, but it might come down to, just click on a facility and here's a list of all the types of things that are in it. So maybe if there's we have kind of broken it up into broad categories, but we'll definitely take that under consideration.
Okay.
Thanks, Claudia. Anyone else have any questions?
I have a question, actually from our economic development department. I guess there's other maps that are being worked on at the county level, and they just wondered if there had been any thought to combining some of those maps.
Is there any particular maps? Sorry,
no,
lots of projects going on.
Unfortunately, I don't have that information. They just mentioned it, so I thought I would bring it up in case it's something that you wanted to consider.
Sure. If it's easier, here's my email address. If you want to just contact me after the fact,
okay,
and then we can kind of go through that. We can go through all the projects that are on the go and kind of figure out what's going on there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Now I have another question. There's all kind of local tourist maps, like the food map or the restaurant map or whatever it's called, and the rural gardens map and all of these kind of different things. are you looking at all these different maps to see what's available? Like, for example, which rural Grey County garden is accessible and which one isn't? Or are you not looking at all these available maps too? Like, I'm trying to understand how far the reach will go.
So at this point, we're on the early stages, and so it's an online map. So we thought we'd start with the municipal facilities, and then we'll grow it from there as the need arises or as the availability.
Okay, I see.
Okay, any other questions? No? Andrew?
No, I can't think of anything.
Okay, Dwight?
No, it's fine.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Sean. We greatly appreciate your presentation as well.
No problem. Again, there's my email address. It's shawn.roberts@grey.ca if you do think of any questions that you'd like to ask.
Perfect, thank you. That's great,
Could
wonderful.
you repeat that slower, please? I had a really hard time trying to write that down, especially the spelling in the second language.
We'll
I got
put it in the
from
minutes.
Yeah.
We'll put it
Claudia,
in the
we'll put it
minutes.
in the minutes.
Pardon?
We'll put it in the minutes.
Oh, okay, thank you. Or
Yeah.
you could send it out with the minutes. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is draft cycling and trails master plan overview with Brian Plumstead, Grey County Manager of Tourism. Welcome, Brian.
I'm just gonna interrupt for 1 second. I have to leave in 1 minute, so I'm gonna just leave the meeting now. There's no point attending that section for 1 minute.
Okay, thanks, Claudia. Take care.
Thank you, and sorry about the technical difficulties.
No worries.
So,
Take care.
Catherine,
Yes.
if I may,
Thank you.
I'm just going to let the rest of the committee know and the public then that we have lost quorum and the rest of the information will be presented for information only.
Thanks, Heather. That's
You're welcome.
great. Okay, Brian, you're up.
Thank you very much, Catherine. And hello to many of you on the call that I don't know. I'm Brian Plumstead, the Manager of Tourism. And greetings to many that I do know on the call. Great to see you again. So I'm going to really elevate us back up to about 30,000 feet to look across Grey County at cycling and trails and talk about our master plan, which is almost in the final stages. I think sometime today we're going to get our draft final plan and hopefully be bringing that to County Council very shortly. So can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
With the, and I may have a little bit of that issue of I'm going to try to change. Did the slide change there? So we've got, this slide is giving some background about our cycling and trails master plan and really shows that it's based on a lot of provincial and county studies over the years, starting back in 2013 with Ontario's first cycling strategy. And that strategy really talked about designing healthy, active, and prosperous communities, improving cycling infrastructure, and increasing cycling tourism opportunities, among many other things. In 2015, the Grey County Transportation Master Plan was undertaken, and that plan certainly identified that active transportation is very important and was a primary goal of the overall Transportation Master Plan. And it also recommended the establishment of an interconnected network. So really that's what we feel this Cycling and Trails Master Plan hopefully fulfills. Then some other studies include our paved shoulder policy in 2017, our official plan, Recolor Grey in 2018, and then most recently last year in 2019, the Grey County Recreational Trails Master Plan, which really dealt with trails on county properties. So in our county forests and then the CP Rail Trail going from Owen Sound to Dundalk. So this plan that we're about to complete, we got some provincial funding for it through the province's Ontario Municipal Commuter Cycling Program. So we got about $530,000 grand majority of that, the bulk of it, went to help pave 22 kilometers of paved shoulders on our county roads. So that really provided additional infrastructure for really all road users. Cyclists are certainly a big one, but Mennonite buggies, anybody who's on the side of the road, and also increases the safety and the long-term maintenance on our roads. We also purchased 5 bike counters, which we've had around the county, counting cycling traffic, and finally developing the Cycling and Trails Master Plan. So right up front, we should talk about what a master plan is and isn't. It is a long-range blueprint. It's a tool to facilitate implementation. So really it's, again, I call it the 30,000 level. It provides guidance, hopefully direction, but it really does not provide, it's not a set of feasibility study for specific projects. So in other words, what Jen Burnett just brought to us was a very detailed plan for the park. You won't see that in our Cycling and Trails Master Plan. You'd see more the idea that we need trails, we need cycling, we need a network, but when the actual projects come to fruition, those would be done more at the local level and in other plans. And it's not a commitment to costs and funding. So while we do cost the plan and provide some ideas, nobody is beholden to that. And also fairly importantly, we've got a little bit of pushback, I'll be honest, from our trails community that felt trails got kind of short shrift in this plan. And to be fair, from the get-go, the focus always was on-road cycling. So that was really how we selected our consultants. The bulk of the work was done in that area. We also talk about trails, but in a lot less detail. So really some of the major recommendations coming out of this plan will be to work with our trail groups, with our municipalities on connecting trails and looking at new trail development. So like most study processes, we had 3 phases, or we started with looking at all policies, collecting data, mapping existing conditions. We launched an engagement strategy. So we reached out to the broader community through email, through social media, and had an online survey. In phase 2, we started developing the network. We looked at candidate routes, certainly what we already have in place, but also how we might be able to connect those routes, and started to develop an implementation plan. Phase 3, which we're just about finished, we had a draft master plan that's been up on the internet for months now. We had a public meeting in the middle of March, just before COVID hit, to get more input. So we're almost there. And what we heard was we had 4 meetings with the consultant, 4 in-person events, which I think were the most important. And I guess we had a total of about 125 people spread amongst all those different meetings. We started with stakeholders, so talking specifically to stakeholders who are cycling groups, trails groups, municipalities, health units, etc. Then we had a more broadly open house for all public to attend. We had a municipal workshop specifically for municipalities and especially roads departments to come and understand what we were proposing, what this might look like on municipal roads. And then we finished up with a public session in the middle of March where we presented our draft plan. And our online activity, we felt very successful, had almost 500 people who participated, and we collected almost 11,000 data points where people actually on the map could point to where they thought routes should go and where some specific facilities might be required. So this slide, and maybe I'll just quickly read it, are really the principles guiding our plan. So Grey County, with its 9-member municipalities, surrounding regions and agency partners, together support the development of a plan that identifies a complete, continuous, and connected network of high-quality cycling and trail routes to accommodate varying user types of all ages and abilities. I think that's especially important for this group. That can include walkers, hikers, cyclists, skiers, equestrians, etc. And in our plan, we also add in mobility assisted users. So we have a specific section that speaks to mobility assisted users. And opportunities to explore the county's natural landscape in a safe and enjoyable way all year round. So the plan aims to enhance the quality of life for county residents by providing low-cost access and options to engage in physical activity, to improve health and social well-being. And the plan is also intended to improve opportunities for economic development and tourism by situating Grey County as a leader of cycling and trails in Ontario by connecting our member municipalities, key destinations, and surrounding regions. So I think that really speaks to the importance of connectivity. And while we have a lot of great cycling routes and trails, they're not really connected. So that's really what the plan is all about, is connection. In our next slide, we detail 9 principles. I don't think I'll go through all of them, but again, just to reinforce the continuous and connected routes that are important. Number 2, improve accessibility and inclusivity within the county's member municipalities and communities. And again, for this group especially, I think it's important that we do think about providing accessibility where we can on our trails, through our signage, through facilities that are associated with trails, washrooms, rest areas, et cetera, et cetera. And then provide recreational, commuting, and touring opportunities within the county, its local municipalities, and to surrounding regions. So this next slide walks through the 4 steps of how we actually undertook the plan. So step 1 is we reviewed and mapped existing conditions. So that was largely a paper exercise. Step 2 was to identify gaps and map candidate routes. And that was very much reaching out to the community through that online survey, hosting meetings with stakeholders and then the public, where we literally went over maps and with markers and marked the maps up. Then from those suggested routes, we undertook field investigations in step 3. So mostly our consultants got out, took thousands of pictures, looked at roads, looked at shoulders, looked at some of our trails. And then in step 4, put those through a criteria. So some of the criteria are very technical and prescribed by the province. And some of them were more looking at what are our community needs? What did we hear from people that they'd like to see? How can we provide those facilities? So those 4 steps were iterative and the plan kept changing as we went through them. And then this slide is quite visual, so I'll apologize to Andrew for that, but it's quite a complex map of the proposed network. So we have 836 kilometers of proposed facilities. The vast majority of those are paved shoulders on our county roads. So if you can imagine trying to create east-west connections about every maybe 20 or 30 kilometers going from north to south, and then north-south connections, again, across the county where we can, to try to create as close to a grid as possible, again, to create that connectivity, which is so important. So that's really on the cycling on-road side. The off-road trails, we have many great linear trails or rail trails from Owen Sound to Dundalk. Certainly the Georgian Brook Bluffs Rail Trail from Owen Sound out to Parkhead, and then the Georgian Trail from Meaford to Collingwood through the Blue Mountains. So those are our 3 best linear trails, and then trying to connect those where possible to communities. And certainly the Bruce Trail is our longest trail. I think there's about 500 kilometers of the Bruce Trail snaking across Grey County. So the plan is to look at signing those important on-road cycling routes, to fill in some gaps on off-road trails where we can, and in some areas to spend a bit more money in looking at things like bike lanes, which are a more robust space for bicycles. They're just bicycles allowed, cars are not. And then some in-boulevard pathways, which are separated trails, either within the right-of-way or completely off the road. So implementing the plan, this gets down, of course, where we start thinking about costing and measures. We've really separated into 2 timeframes. The short term is from 20 to 29. So short term is 10 years in infrastructure. That seems like a long time, but in capital planning, that's called short term. So we have about half, 373 kilometers of mostly on-road routes. 120 of those are paved shoulders. Another 248 are signed routes. So that really is just sticking signs along our county and municipal roads to identify a cycling route. And then the long term is another 360 kilometers beyond 2030. So that's more out into the future. And the total cost is around $3.5 million over the next 10 years. Seems like a lot of money, but really over 10 years, you know, about $350,000 a year. And the vast majority of that is already within our county capital planning for paved shoulders. The biggest cost is paved shoulders on our county roads. And then there's about another 400,000 that are not currently funded. And a vast majority of that would be signage that is on municipal roads. So we've suggested it, we've identified it, but it is not funded. Some great news is the federal government just released some infrastructure funding and highlighted active transportation just within the last week and a half. So we're looking at that very closely as possibility for funding some of this. And then beyond the infrastructure, which is a huge part of the plan, equally important is really enhancing a culture of change. And just from what I've heard on the call so far, I think that's what this committee is all about, is really getting us to think a little bit differently about our public spaces, our transportation, to think more about accessibility and the growing needs for accessibility. So certainly that would be a huge part of, I think, the implementation of this plan. A couple of examples of how we hope to implement it is we are looking at a Grey County Trails Committee and possibly even one committee for on-road cycling, which has a whole different suite of needs and I think work. And then probably a separate committee to look at off-road trails. And that would include, I think both would include a lot of municipal input, but certainly the off-road trails especially. Looking at active school travel programs in our municipalities, and then creating experience-oriented route maps. So while we have a grid of where people can travel across Grey County from a tourism perspective, we like to really give a sense of place in our communities by talking about where are great places to visit and great places to eat and great places to rest and stay and wrap that all into an itinerary. So I think we're just about wrapped here. Supporting the implementation, again, I mentioned that committee, which could include representatives from member municipalities, stakeholder groups, and important groups, probably like the Accessibility Advisory Committee. Collaboration is so important. We absolutely depend on a wide range of partners. So within the county, within our municipalities, public health unit, Regional Tourism Organization 7 is a tourism organization that's been very helpful, and they have some money as well. And then local businesses, school boards, etc. And then as always, we're sort of looking for funding. Some of this certainly is funded already within our county plans for the next 10 years, but we're always looking for other funding opportunities as well to make it happen. So next steps are to really formally adopt the plan as a policy document, and then very quickly look at what some of the projects that are proposed within the plan that fit within the county plans and capital plans specifically. And then a huge job will be engaging with our member municipalities for the on-road piece of cycling, but also the off-road trails. And that would also include trail groups and everybody who has anything to do with trails. So I think that is pretty much a wrap. Hopefully I was within my 10 minutes. And certainly if there's any questions or clarification, I'd be happy to answer anything.
Does anyone have any questions for Brian? Andrew?
I think a comment is if you're gonna form some of these committees, like I'm gonna use Greg County Trails Committee, for example. I think you might want to include some people with disabilities, even if you have to bring them in by phone or on a Zoom meeting so they can take part, because I think we need to keep in mind those with disabilities too, that yes, there's a Greg County Accessibility Committee, but I think they have a voice too.
Yeah, great point. Thank you, Andrew. And we will absolutely keep that in mind. Just being on this call, I'll be honest, my head's already, I've got a lot of ideas. Just Kathy, your map, I mean, really, you know, we've put out an outdoor activities map. You'd be hard pressed to find out where are our trails that are accessible, where are some of our outdoor recreation areas that are accessible. So that's a huge piece of work. And I think that, to me, that would be one of the top priorities of our trails group going forward, is to highlight those.
Yeah. Do you have any questions, Dwight?
No, a great presentation. Look forward to work with you in the future. I always have a great concern about when you speak about trails, the accessibility. We at one time, this committee was going to go and visit a trail to look at as a committee, which we never did. It just never happened. I think it's very important that this committee take that initiative to go out to actually look at trails, physically have everybody there with us, with disability and otherwise, to really see, to get a real good feel of what it's all about. And I think that's imperative that we do that.
Yeah, good point, Dwight. Absolutely. And I think just inviting this committee to be part of that is very important.
Yeah, maybe on a personal note, I was cycling in Quebec City last week on holiday, and there was a 30-kilometer paved trail right into the heart of Quebec City. It's a former rail trail, and it was just unbelievable to see everybody out on wheels, walking, scooters, mobility assisted devices, but everybody just out enjoying that trail. And that, you know, we have very few of those in Grey County, but my hope would be we can, as we go forward, that's sort of the gold standard to aim for.
I'm just curious, Brian, what's the width of that trail?
We figured it was about a good 6 feet wide in each direction. So I think it was at least 12 feet wide.
Wow.
Certainly that's, you know, a very busy urban area.
Mm-hmm.
So there's certainly money to put in, but I was so amazed in Quebec, even smaller communities on the rail trails, they really maintained them. They had a very good surface. They were highly used. So yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thank you, Brian. Great presentation. We certainly appreciate it. And yeah, we look forward to working with you on this.
Great. Well, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate Kathy for sort of poking me with, I think, suggesting that I should come to this committee. And it was
yes, absolutely
excellent. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move on to, well, item number 7 is the reference documents that Kathy has provided. Which one of them is the Rick Hansen one that I've mentioned earlier. Kathy, do you have anything you'd like to add to that, or?
Yeah, I think Stephanie Lacey-Avon is going to just walk us through the reference document, Recolor Gray, Healthy Community and Residential Subdivision Guidelines.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I missed that. Sorry, Stephanie.
Okay, hi everyone. I can share my screen here for you guys. All right. Thanks for having me. Just to walk you through this document that was recently completed in collaboration with the University of Guelph master's students for a rural development and planning program. And so it's a guideline document that we now have available on the county's website under the planning department page. And this document we're aiming to have it available for developers that come for any pre-consult sessions that we have, or and should they move on to formal applications, we want to share this as a reference guideline document for more detailed urban design focus type questions and areas of interest that we typically don't address in our policy documents that we have to date. So this is a move in the right direction from the planning department, where we have something in writing that can help facilitate these discussions that would guide potentially more aesthetically pleasing and enjoyable spaces and environments that are going to be developed in the county. So for simplicity's sake, I've just simply put in Control F for accessibility. And so it does reference accessibility throughout the document. Again, it's just a guideline document, so it doesn't get into specific details, but it at least is going to reference certain considerations that developers should be thinking about. And then it will hopefully spark the conversation to then get into further detail for specific design for parks, for example. So it's to simply put it on the radar at this stage, and certainly look to develop further processes and guideline documents to facilitate. So for inclusive design, we have questions such as, is accessibility a component of your project? Will your project design create barriers to accessibility? So general questions, again, probing questions, with specific reference to age and family-friendly design. We have the specific reference to the AODA Act. So speaking to ensuring spaces are designed in accordance with that act. And as well, just the outdoor spaces. So if plantings, trees and flowers, providing spaces to sit in shaded areas, curb cuts for accessibility. So again, general reference to accessibility needs here. We also have put in with reference to intersection design. So designing streets to ensure accessibility standards. So complete streets would pertain to all users of the road. So pedestrians, cyclists, those with mobility issues or needs, sorry, and as well vehicles. And then again, this is another reference here. So design roads as complete streets in order to accommodate accessibility standards of all age groups. And for specific reference to parkland, so access and locations, smaller parks and parkettes can be distributed in multiple locations across a neighborhood for accessibility. So those are the seven references in this document that speak to accessibility. Again, it is quite general in nature. And this document is fairly new. We've only recently put it on our website, and it was recently completed in the last couple of months. So we're just starting to share it with developers and those that have development inquiries to start that conversation earlier on. So that's all I have for you today. If you guys have any questions specific to this document. Again, it's a stepping stone, and so we're hoping to build on this piece and hopefully have more extensive information that would guide accessibility needs down the road.
Thank you, Stephanie. Does anyone have any questions? Andrew?
No.
Okay, Dwight?
No, not this time.
Well, excellent presentation, Stephanie. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so we will move on to item number 9, which is other business. So is there any other business to report, Kathy? No? Dwight, do you have anything?
No, at this time I do not. Thanks. Good
Okay.
job, by the way, Kathy.
Andrew?
No, no other business at this point.
Okay. So I guess we're looking at the next meeting date, Kathy. Any thoughts?
I think at this point, we'll just wait and see when especially our local members have anything that they need us to review or provide comment on.
Okay, super. Okay, I guess we can adjourn the meeting then. And thank you everyone for attending. Great to see faces. This journey that we're all on is unfortunately, I think is going to be a little bit longer than we all probably anticipate. So hopefully we all stay healthy and safe and look forward to seeing everybody again. So I guess we can call the meeting to adjournment. Do we need a motion, Kathy, to adjourn? Okay. So a motion to adjourn. Dwight, can you? Okay. All right. Sarah, you're a member? Yeah. Are we good, Kathy? Perfect. Excellent. Thank you. Good to see everybody again. Take care.
Thanks, everybody.